The chamber beneath the council hall was colder than the rest of the city, its walls lined with enchanted glass panels that fractured the dim light into shards scattered like stars across the polished floor. Lira stood at the center, her breath steady despite the weight of what she was about to uncover. Before her, Councillor Verith's expression was unreadable, his eyes glinting with the chill of calculated power. "Do you truly believe the people can bear the truth, Lira?" Verith's voice was smooth, but beneath it lay a sharp edge. The sphere was forged to protect us all. Without control, chaos reigns. Lira's gaze did not waver. "Control built on lies is a cage, Councillor. The inheritance you and your ilk cling to is not a gift, but a chain forged to bind the lower classes in servitude." For a moment, silence swallowed the chamber, the ambient hum of the glass sphere pressing in from all sides. Then Verith's lips curled into a thin smile. "You tread dangerous ground, orphan." But Lira was already prepared for the gamble. In her hand, she held a bundle of stolen council documents, their magical seals broken by Eldrin's careful hands. These papers told a story of deliberate manipulation laws, twisted to concentrate magical inheritance within the ruling elite, ensuring that power never slipped beyond their grasp. The revelation struck like a hammer, echoing the whispered fears that had festered in the rebellion's corners. Yet, presenting these truths was a perilous act. The rebellion was fragile, its members bound together more by hope than trust. To expose these machinations risked splintering their fragile unity. Later, in a cramped room lit only by flickering candlelight, Lira and Myra spread the documents across a rough wooden table. Shadows danced on the walls as the fire crackled, punctuating their grave realization. "They knew from the beginning," Myra murmured, her voice tight with anger. "They shaped the inheritance laws to keep us beneath their heels." Lira nodded, feeling the weight settle deeper in her chest. "This changes everything. We can no longer fight just for freedom. We must dismantle the very foundations of their power." Yet she knew the path ahead was fraught with peril. The rebellion's leaders would not all see this truth the same way. Some might fracture under the strain of betrayal. Others might seize the opportunity for their own gain. Maintaining unity would require more than just revelation. It would demand leadership, forged in resolve and compassion. Seeking guidance, Lira turned to Eldrin, the aging scholar whose knowledge of the sphere's magic and history was unmatched. His study was a cluttered sanctuary of ancient tomes and fragile glass artifacts, the air thick with dust and the scent of old parchment. Eldrin hesitated as he revealed the deeper context of the inheritance laws, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and regret. The sphere's creators bound the magic with strict rules, meant to preserve balance. But over centuries, those rules were exploited by those who sought not balance, but dominion. This knowledge was both a curse and a beacon. It explained the city's rigid class divisions and the magical monopoly of the elite. But it also illuminated a path for change if only they could break the chains without shattering the delicate equilibrium. Back in the vaulted hall beneath the city, Lira faced the rebellion's leaders. The air was thick with tension, whispers of distrust swirling like the storm beyond their glass prison. Some questioned her motives, others feared the consequences of upheaval. With a steady voice, Lira addressed them. "We stand at a crossroads. The secrets we've uncovered are painful, but necessary. If we fracture now, the sphere around our city will fall into ruin. We must stand united, not just against the ruling class, but for the future we all deserve." The distant rumble of thunder seemed to echo her words. a reminder of the storm that raged beneath their fragile sanctuary. In that moment, Lira felt the weight of leadership settle upon her shoulders, not just as a wielder of power, but as a guardian of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, the veil of glass both a prison and a promise, but Lira was resolved to tear through the illusions that bound her city, to forge a future where magic was not a weapon of oppression, but a light for all. As the assembly dispersed, murmurs of both doubt and determination lingered in the air. The rebellion was no longer just a dream, was a reckoning, and Lira stood at its heart, ready to face whatever fractures the truth might bring. The glass sphere above them shimmered faintly, its surface reflecting not just the cracks that had begun to form, but the fragile hope of a city poised on the edge of transformation. And somewhere deep within, the storm rumbled a reminder that freedom, like power, came with a price. The ancient library sat nestled deep within the city's upper spires, a place few of the lower classes ever glimpsed, let alone entered. The air inside was thick with the scent of aged parchment and faint traces of magical residue that hummed softly beneath the stillness. Lyra's fingers hovered over a fragile, yellowed tome, the kind of book that carried centuries of secrets and whispered histories. Her breath caught as she traced the worn emblem embossed on the cover, a swirling tempest encircled by shards of glass. It was the crest she had seen in her dreams, the same symbol etched faintly on a pendant she wore since childhood without knowing its origin. Eamon stood nearby, his eyes gleaming with the kind of excitement reserved for scholars who had just uncovered a long-lost truth. The Stormborn lineage, he whispered reverently, was believed to be a myth even among the ruling elite. They said those bloodlines were vanquished or sealed away when the sphere was forged. Lira swallowed hard, the weight of that revelation settling upon her like the gathering clouds outside the glass dome. The endless storm below was no mere natural disaster. It was a living force, intertwined with the city's fate and, as she was beginning to understand, her own. The library's stained glass windows shimmered as distant thunder rumbled, shadows flickering across the walls like restless spirits. Lira felt a sudden pulse within her chest, a stirring of power she had never before fully comprehended. The storm's energy was calling to her, a siren song woven into her very blood. Days passed in a blur of study and experimentation. Guided by Eamon's vast knowledge and the cryptic passages from the ancient texts, Lira began to unlock new facets of her magic. She learned to coax the tempest's energy, bending gusts of wind and flickers of lightning to her will. Yet each attempt left her drained, as if the storm demanded a piece of her soul in exchange for its gifts. One evening, as the city's glass sphere shimmered under a gathering tempest, Lira ascended to the abandoned observatory perched at the highest point of the city. The wind howled through broken panes, carrying the scent of rain and ozone. There, amidst the relics of forgotten knowledge, a figure materialized in a maelstrom of swirling rain and wind, Mira. Her presence was both terrifying and beautiful, draped in storm-grey fabrics that billowed despite the still air. Her eyes mirrored the swirling chaos of the tempest outside. "You carry the storm's blood, Lira," she intoned, voice echoing like thunder. "But the legacy is a double-edged blade. To wield it is to flirt with destruction." Lira's heart pounded. Myra revealed truths long hidden, the cost of the Stormborn magic. The boundless power that could either shield the city or unravel its very fabric. The storm was alive, a sentient force that sought freedom beyond the glass prison. As the night deepened, Lira stood alone on the city's highest balcony, the storm raging fiercely beneath her. The glass sphere vibrated with the tempest's fury, faint cracks spiderwebbing across its surface. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the city in stark, fleeting bursts. The roar of the storm was deafening, yet beneath the chaos, Lira felt a strange, calmer connection to the power threatening to consume her. Her mind raced with possibilities and fears. Could she master the storm-born magic without losing herself? Would embracing her heritage mean becoming the very force that could shatter the city or save it? The wind tugged at her hair, whispering promises and threats alike. Somewhere deep within, a storm was awakening, and with it, the fragile hope of a future shaped not by glass, but by the wild, untamed power coursing through her veins. And as the first great crack stretched wide across the sphere, Lira knew her true journey was only beginning. The dawn would bring new challenges, but tonight, the storm had spoken, and Lira had answered its call. The chamber beneath the glass dome was cloaked in shadows, the fractured light casting jagged patterns across the cold stone walls. Lira stood facing Kale, the weight of his betrayal pressing down on her like the endless storm beyond the sphere. His eyes, once a source of comfort and trust, now held a hardened edge, a reflection of the fractures spreading through the rebellion itself. "Why, Kale?" Lira's voice trembled, torn between anger and disbelief. "After everything, why would you turn against us?" Kale's jaw tightened. "You don't see the bigger picture, Lira. The rebellion is on a path to ruin. We need order, not chaos. The city needs a firm hand, even if it isn't yours." The words cut deeper than any blade. Lira felt the glass-like veneer of their friendship splintering, shards of trust falling away. Around them, the faint hum of the sphere's magic thrummed, as if echoing the tension that crackled between them. Meanwhile, in the labyrinthine corridors of the ruling council, Myra moved like a whisper. Her footsteps were soundless on the marble floors as she slipped into a shadowed alcove. Pulling Lira aside, her voice low and urgent, she revealed the whispered rumors, shed uncovered whispers of spies embedded within the rebellion, of plans to fracture their cause from the inside. "We are running out of time," Myra warned, her eyes darting nervously. "If we don't act soon, the rebellion will crumble before it even reaches the gates of the ruling council." Lira nodded, the weight of leadership settling heavier on her shoulders. Trust was a fragile thing. One betrayal was enough to topple an empire. Back in the rebellion's meeting hall, the atmosphere was electric with discord. Factions clashed openly, voices raised in bitter accusations. The glass ceiling above, marred by growing cracks, refracted the chaotic light, casting fractured reflections onto the faces of the rebels, a stark mirror of their divided hearts. Idran attempted to mediate, his calm voice a thin thread against the rising storm of anger. "We cannot afford to fight amongst ourselves. Our true enemy watches and waits for us to fall apart. Unity is our only shield." But the wounds ran deep. Kale's defection had opened old scars and mistrust. Some whispered that Lyra's leadership was faltering, that a new path must be found. Others clung desperately to her vision, fearful of what would come if the rebellion lost its way. As the tumult raged within, Lira found herself drawn to the quiet solitude of a rooftop overlooking the endless storm. The jagged cracks in the glass sphere below mirrored the fractures she saw in her people-land within herself. The roaring winds and lightning flashes below seemed to echo her turmoil. She traced a fingertip along one of the fissures, feeling the latent power pulsing beneath her skin. This sphere, their prison and protector, was breaking apart, and so was the rebellion she led. A cold wind swept past, carrying with it a whispered promise: to heal the fractures, sacrifices must be made. Loyalties would be tested, and painful truths faced. But in that crucible, a stronger future could be forged. Lira inhaled deeply, her resolve hardening like tempered glass. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with peril, but she would face it head-on. For the city trapped within the sphere, for the people who dared to dream of freedom, and for the fragile hope that still flickered in her heart. As the storm raged on, so too did the fractures within, but from brokenness, new strength could rise. The question was whether the rebellion and Lira herself could survive long enough to find it. The night deepened, shadows lengthened, and the glass above whispered secrets only the brave dared to hear. Lira turned from the edge of the rooftop, the weight of tomorrow pressing upon her shoulders. The fractures within were many, but she would not let them be her undoing. Not yet. The city waited, breath held, poised on the brink of change. And so did she. The narrow alleyways of the lower city twisted like veins beneath the great glass dome, their shadows lengthening as dusk bled into night. Lira moved swiftly, her footsteps muffled against the cobblestones slick with recent rain. The glowing fissure near her home pulsed faintly in her mind, a persistent reminder of the power she barely understood. Tonight, she sought answers beyond the whispers of rebellion and rumors. She sought Eldrin. The stories about Eldrin had been passed down in hushed voices, like fragile glass shards too delicate to hold openly. He was said to be the artisan who had first woven magic into the sphere's flawless surface, crafting the city's prison and its protector in one breath. Few had seen him, fewer still had lived to tell the tale. Yet, desperation and hope twisted within Lira, driving her steps toward his hidden workshop. She paused before a weathered door embedded in the rock beneath the city, marked only by an intricate pattern etched in glass that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Taking a breath, she pressed her palm against the cool surface. The door hummed, then slid open silently, revealing a cavernous room bathed in the pale blue glow of enchanted glass shards. Inside, the air smelled of molten sand and a faint metallic temps, swirling with an ancient energy that prickled her skin. Crystalline sculptures hung suspended from the ceiling, catching the light and fracturing it into rainbows that danced across the walls. At the room's center stood a figure hunched over a glowing forge, his silver hair catching the light like strands of spun starlight. "Lira," the old man said without turning, his voice as smooth as glass edges. "I have been expecting you." She stepped forward, heart pounding. "You know who I am." He smiled knowingly, setting down a slender tool etched with arcane runes. "The blood of the Glassbound flows through you. You carry the legacy of those who shaped this city. But legacy is a heavy burden, child." Eldrin's eyes gleamed as he beckoned her closer. "Come, I will show you what was lost to time." He lifted a prism from the forge, its facets alive with swirling light. The glass of the sphere is not mere crystal. It is a conduit for magic, an extension of will and spirit. To shape it is to shape reality itself. Lira watched, mesmerized, as Eldrin's hands glowed faintly. He wove tendrils of pure energy into the prism, which pulsed like a heartbeat. But such power demands sacrifice. To bind this magic within yourself, you must surrender something precious, memory, a fragment of your soul. Her breath caught. The cost was steep. "Why must I pay so dearly?" she asked, voice barely more than a whisper. "Because magic is not free," Eldrin replied gravely. "It is a contract. It shapes you as much as you shape it." The room seemed to hold its breath as Lira considered the choice before her. Memories flickered through her mind, the laughter of friends long gone, the warmth of a night sky unbroken by glass, the tender smile of a mother she barely remembered. Each was a treasure. a thread in the tapestry of her being. "I will do it," she declared, voice firm despite the ache blossoming in her chest. Eldrin nodded solemnly and guided her to a crystalline pedestal etched with glowing runes. "Place your hand here and think of the memory you wish to give." Lira closed her eyes, the image of a sunlit afternoon on the city's outskirts surfacing. The rare moment of peace before glass and storm enclosed them. She pressed her palm to the pedestal, feeling a cold rush traverse her veins. The memory shimmered, then dissolved into the glowing runes. Pain blossomed, sharp and hollow, as if a part of her soul was being plucked away. Yet, as the agony ebbed, a new current of power surged through her limbs, clarity and strength she had never known. Opening her eyes, she saw the workshop anew. The shards gleamed brighter. The air thrummed with potential. "You were changed," Eldrin said. "Now, you can weave the glass like never before. But beware, the price you pay will echo in your heart." Lira nodded, tasting the bittersweet weight of her choice. The city's fate rested on the edge of a shard, and she held the power to carve its future. But what she had lost would linger in her silence and shadow, a secret fracture within her. As she stepped back into the night, the fissure in the sphere pulsed stronger, responding to her newfound command. The glass whispered promises and warnings, and Lira knew the path ahead was fraught with peril and possibility. Yet, beneath the looming glass dome and the endless storm beyond, a single shard of hope glimmered in her grasp. The night air carried the distant rumble of thunder, a reminder that the storm was never far, and neither was the reckoning to come. And so, with the glassmaker's secret etched deep in her soul, Lira's journey bent toward the unknown where power and sacrifice danced on the edge of breaking. The city held its breath beneath the towering glass dome as night fell, the endless storm beyond its fragile walls thrashing in furious protest. In the labyrinthine alleys beneath the council's stronghold, a gathering of figures cloaked in shadow moved with quiet purpose. Lira stood among them, her chest rising and falling with steady breaths, eyes sharp and alert as the muted murmur of voices wove a tapestry of anxious hope. Kale, the rebellion's commander, approached her with a grim nod. "They're ready," he whispered, his scarred face set in determined lines. "Once you unleash your power, there's no turning back." Lira's gaze drifted upward, toward the glass sphere that both protected and imprisoned their city. The faint glow of fissures shimmered like veins under the surface, a silent warning of the danger her magic invited. "We don't have a choice," she replied. "If we don't act now, the ruling class will tighten their grip forever." Myra, ever watchful, scanned the dim streets for signs of patrols. The guards are heavier than ever, but the rebellion's hearts burn brighter. This night we strike a blow they won't forget. The rebels moved as one, shadows blending with the glassy sheen of the city's underbelly. At Lira's command, they surged forward, ascending the spiral stairways carved into the city's translucent walls. The cool surface beneath their feet hummed faintly, responding to the rising tension. At the threshold of the council's stronghold, the air thickened with anticipation. Councillor Varus awaited, his silhouette framed by the opulent glow of crystal chandeliers and the cold gleam of polished marble. His voice carried a chilling calm. "You dare challenge the order we have built. You threaten the delicate balance, the very fabric of our existence." Lira stepped forward, her hands igniting in a cascade of light. "The balance is a cage. It's time to shatter it." With a roar that echoed through the glass halls, she unleashed her power. Waves of energy rippled outward, splintering the glass beneath her feet and sending shards tinkling like bells into the air. The council's guards surged forward, steel drawn, But the rebels met them with fierce resolve. Steel clashed against steel, and cries of battle pierced the charged silence. Lira focused, drawing deeper from the sphere's magic, forcing open the barriers that kept the council's secrets. The glass walls fractured further, spreading cracks like spiderwebs across the dome. The city trembled, the storm's fury pressing against the fragile shell. Amidst the chaos, Kale fought tirelessly, rallying the rebels even as fatigue gnawed at his limbs. Myra darted through the fray, her keen eyes spotting weaknesses and guiding their advance. But the price was steep. The expanding fractures threatened to unravel the sphere's integrity. A low, ominous hum grew louder, the city's glass heart straining under the assault. As the final barrier crumbled, Lira raised her gaze skyward, eyes wide with a mixture of triumph and dread. The cracks stretched like veins across the city's protective dome, a stark reminder that their victory came at the edge of catastrophe. "Is this the freedom we wanted?" she whispered, the weight of her choices settling deep within her. Far below, the endless storm howled, as if sensing the fragile balance tipping toward ruin. The night was far from over, and the true battle for the city's soul had only just begun. The dawn would bring new challenges, but for now, the rebels had shattered the illusion of safety, and the glass beneath their feet whispered of a revolution that would change everything.